Semua bisa kena.
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 Semua bisa kena. Jurnalis, aktivis, seniman, kreator konten, komedian, ilmuwan, mahasiswa, guru, ibu rumah tangga, petani, nelayan, pedagang, tukang ojek, semua profesi, semua orang, semua yang berpendapat. Pemerintah dan DPR berencana dalam waktu dekat mengesahkan rancangan Kitab Undang-Undang Hukum Pidana. Rencana ini banyak ditentang karena prosesnya tidak transparan. Sampai sekarang, tidak ada yang tahu draft terbaru yang bakal disahkan itu isinya seperti.
The revised criminal code was passed on December 6, 2022. There were protests against it in the country, as shown on the photograph taken by Muhammad Isnur. The new penal code revisions have introduced controversial changes, such as criminalizing cohabitation and sex before marriage, which can lead to moral policing and potentially target marginalized groups like the LGBTQ+ community. Policymakers, since the era of reforms, have exhibited a strong regulatory zeal, leading to a rapid pace of legislation and intervention aimed at protecting, controlling, and enforcing sexual morality at all levels, from national to regional. This quote at the beginning of the book Gender, Islam and Sexuality in Contemporary Indonesia highlights the critical role of policy and legislation in shaping the discourse around sexual morality in Indonesia. My aim was to provide a context for the following chapters, which zoom in on specific aspects of gender, Islam, and sexuality in Indonesia. Let's have a look at the topics tackled in some of the book's chapters and what the respective contributions are. The first chapter, co-authored by Eva Nisa and myself, examines the nexus of violence, gender, opaque secluded spaces, and power imbalances that fuel sexual violence. The activists and ulama we zoom in on are from the National Commission on Violence Against Women, the Indonesian Child Protection Commission, the Southeast Asia Freedom of Expression Network, the Indonesian Women's Coalition, and the Congress of Indonesian Gender Just Ulama. We discuss instances where roles are reversed, such as victims being labeled as perpetrators of zina, extramarital sex, and how activists strive to rectify this to better support victims. We also shed light on the challenges faced by victims despite these efforts. The narrative also underscores the commitment of KUPI, the Congress of Indonesian Gender Just Ulama, in safeguarding individuals from dehumanizing sexual violence. Anwar Khalid teases out the ambivalence of care and criminalization, drawing on the Indonesian Muslim mass organization Muhammadiyah. He reveals how LGBTQ+ individuals are often perceived as engaging in abnormal sexual behavior, requiring rehabilitation. With LGBTQ+ people perceived in this way, leaders in these groups create a situation where members who are closer to the community feel they must help and defend them, for example in the Associated Women's Organization ICAS. He begins his chapter with a boarding school the students of which are all male-bodied individuals who identify themselves as women. This boarding school was closed after the death of Ibu Shinta, one of its founders, whom Anwar Khalid had previously interviewed for his chapter. The clip featured here talks about how the transgender community is concerned about Ibu Shinta's death and their future. The contribution by Azri Sarasvati demonstrates how the imagery of travel has become a powerful symbol in the commercialization of Indonesian Muslim fashion, both internationally and domestically. The appearance of Indonesian modest fashion on New York City runways, which American media portrayed as a challenge to the Trump administration's Muslim ban, illustrates how this travel imagery is intertwined with human rights discourse on freedom, a concept that resonates with many middle-class Indonesian Muslim women. However, these narratives of success and global expansion often overlook several critical aspects. They fail to address the material realities, the profit-driven motives of the fashion industry in promoting modest fashion, and the stark contrast between businesses' freedom of movement and the restrictions faced by many communities due to geopolitical and social barriers. In Section 2, Halal Lifestyle, the theoretical contribution lies in revealing the connections between modesty and commodification within the modest fashion industry, halal cosmetics, and an online platform for polygamous marriages. One of the contributions in this section by Lila Konya and Nurbayati examines the interplay of modesty and commodification in the context of how dating, technology, and Islamic values come together in the AO Polygamy app. Thereby this chapter contributes to a key goal of this publication, demonstrating how the desire for a lifestyle adherent to Sharia principles is expressed through online halal dating platforms. Part 3 of the book explores the interplay between shame and self-determination, particularly in the context of women's experiences in Indonesia, adding to scholarship on malu, shame, embarrassment, for example by Johan Lindqvist and Sharon Graham Davies. Monica Vinanita, Nicholas Harriman, and Petra Mahis' contribution examines the deep-seated stigmatization of divorcees and widows in Indonesian society and how it is represented in pop culture. They explore how this stigmatization plays out and how women respond when faced with the stigma associated with being a janda, for example, by concealing their status. Carlos Pioco's chapter explores divorce in the context of migrant workers' literature, for example in Taiwan. He discusses how one protagonist, for instance, who has experienced humiliation from her father and husband, divorces as an intermediate step, symbolizing her disassociation from men and leading her to explore lesbian love. The protagonists face constant shaming from the outside, but they continue to express their sexuality and develop a deeper bond with each other. Is that all? No. There is much more to explore. More chapters, by Indonesian and international authors. This is an open access book so you can download it right now. Or you can buy it as a hardcover or softcover book. What do others say about it? The volume is a must-read for anyone wanting to get up to speed on changes in Indonesia's gender, sexuality and Islamic landscape. Professor Sharon Graham Davies, Director of the Herb Faith Indonesia Engagement Centre, Monash University, Australia. A showcase of excellent research, this book is of appeal to Indonesian studies scholars, and to readers in the field of Asian cultural studies. It is also of relevance to the field of Asian gender and sexuality studies, and to scholars in Islamic studies. Professor Pamela Nealon, University of Newcastle, Australia. Last but not least, my farewell greetings from my room with a view to everybody in the panel. I hope that the book Gender, Sexuality and Islam in Contemporary Indonesia will benefit those who read it, including researchers, students, activists and the public. You want to contact me in person? Contact me at monica.anetz@upol.cz, find me on LinkedIn and ResearchGate or read about my research cluster anthropology advancements. Thank you very much for watching and bye-bye.